Like,
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started so we can get finished and go on with other things. So, uh, this is basically just to tell you a little bit about church conference and especially about what's changed with church conference reporting. And so, Chris is going to lead you through that part, and because she knows way more about that than I do, and then she'll kind of pitch it over to me, and I'll kind of show you the agenda of what we're going to actually do when I show up at church conference and kind of go through a little bit of that. So, but I'll turn it over to Chris first and let her talk about reports and how to get in the system to upload your reports and fill them all out and how to go through all that. So then we'll answer
right,
questions at the end, whatever you have.
interrupt me, add questions at the end, whatever you like, and I'll just get going. Is that showing up for everybody? All right. This is just trying to go through step by step and show you the ones that are familiar with the process from last year, show you some new things that they've added, and those who are new, it's just all going to be new. First of all, where you find your reports and where you turn them in. This is the URL you want to be using. Bookmark this URL. If you bookmark other URLs, you may not have the most recent up-to-date version, but this URL will always get you to the most recent update. And I know the most recent update was this morning. So trust me, it really is important to be where you want to be. When you go to this website, you will see this login page. Note that username and password are case sensitive. Your username is the 6-digit GCFA number that has been assigned to your church. If you can't find that, come to me. I will look it up for you. It's shared among several people at your church, usually the finance or whoever writes the checks, whoever does the pastor, if they do the end of church reporting, end of year reporting. So this very much is the church login. Your finance person can use this site, use this account credentials to access payment online for apportionments and all direct billing. So if you don't know what the password is, go ask your treasurer or your financial secretary first. If you're still having problems and you can't find your password, go back to that website, enter your username, and you click Forgot Password. The password will be mailed to the recovery address on that we have on file. If you don't know where it got emailed, come talk to me. I've got that list. So we can get on. This is the hard part. But once you get on, first thing you're going to look at is the charge reports. This is what you will see when you log on as a church. Click on charge reports. And this is what's going to come up. Whoops, sorry. That did not do what I expected to. This is where you fill out where you can now start entering your reports. If you need to get them first, well, let me back up. There are 3 report formats. There's direct input, there's a PDF download and upload, and there's a PDF upload. Direct input looks like the big blue button, and we're going to stick with the finance report because it's the one on top. So if you click on that blue finance button, you're going to come up with this report of the finance committee. And you'll notice that some things are filled in, but there's a lot of boxes that need to be filled in. Once you start entering data, see, I've started entering dates. You can click the save, and you could close it and get out and finish it later. So I entered in a few things, and this is kind of just a throwaway one. Once you hit save, it'll tell you how complete it is, so you know how much more you have to do. And as I said, at this point, you could close and finish the report later. This is kind of new. When you have answered all the questions, you have to check this little box to be able to sign and date it. and that's going to be part of your completion. So you won't see 100% until you have this signed and dated fields filled out.
Chris, is that a type-in sign or a digital?
It is a type-in.
Okay.
I acknowledge that the name entered below represents an e-signature for the person indicated, along with their full knowledge and consent.
Okay.
I guess you can't, yeah, you probably can't read that. It's big on my screen. Once it is completed, it will look something like this. You'll see the little completed date, and obviously I did this one. If you want to print a copy for your own personal church files, click the printer icon. Pretty standard. Once you hit this spot, you can no longer edit it. You can go and delete it and start all over, but you can't edit what's already in there. Blank copies of these reports are all available at the top of the page. There's a link there. Any of the questions that are in bold blue are required. If you don't have an answer, none or NA is perfectly acceptable, but something needs to be filled out. And again, I mentioned once the report is completed, it will not be editable. You can delete it, but you will have to start over when filling it out. So that's number one. Sorry. There in the lower part of the section, you may be in a situation, especially in the larger reports, where you have multiple reports. You have, say, 2 lay servants in your congregation, and you need to submit a report for each one. Each time you click on one of these blue buttons, it will start a new report. If you have started a report and saved it, like we talked about a few slides back, click this little folder icon to get the saved version. If you click this again, it'll start a new form and you'll just start over, and then there'll be multiple copies floating around. So we don't want that. But just follow all of those. If you have any questions about it, let me know. The second type report is what I'm calling a PDF download and upload. For any of you who did it last year, you're familiar with this. This is kind of for those who are brand new, this is kind of what the bridge version was, and they didn't quite get all of the bridges over to the new version. So we're going to look at the clergy compensation form. Just like last year, you click on that link, that blue link that says clergy compensation form or whatever form you need to download a fillable PDF. You have the choice to fill out the PDF electronically. You can sign it if you want to. You don't have to print it off, get a wet signature and scan it. But if for some reason you feel that you would prefer to do that, that's perfectly fine. What we are looking for is a PDF file that contains this report when you have it all filled out. When you name your file, please include your church name in the file name, but do not use any apostrophes. So Johnson's Chapel, St. John's, UMC, any of those, please do not use apostrophes. It makes the computer very unhappy. And you will not know it. I will only see it on the back end. And it won't tell you which it is what it is. Once you have your file and it's saved, and we're going back to the clergy compensation form, when you're ready to upload that PDF, just click this arrow next to the form, and that will bring up a little window that says File Uploader. Do what it says, click the Choose File button right here to select a file from your computer. You'll recognize it. And once selected, an Upload button will appear to upload the file. So you choose the file, and then you push the Upload button, and I did not grab one that has an upload there. Follow the directions there. Once you've successfully uploaded your file, a paperclip will appear, so you know it's there. This is where it just gets a little bit. If you use an apostrophe in the file name, it will not load, even though the paperclip is showing. So you have no way of knowing whether or not it worked. It is what it is. Again, please include your church name in your file name somewhere. Don't need 50 some odd copies of TWK compensation report. And then I have to try and figure out exactly which church it goes with. If you do use an apostrophe, it will not load correctly, even though the paperclip is showing, but dashes, underscores, and spaces all seem to be acceptable. I just dropped the apostrophes. It seems to work quite nicely. And then finally, there's one more that is a little bit unique. It's the only place you have to do a PDF upload, and that's the 2025 Committees of the Church. Those of you who worked on this last year realize that there's a lot of lay leadership that needs to be voted on at the charge conference, but there was no form to put them in. There was a form for the lay delegate to annual conference, and that was it. So what they've asked you to do is you get to create this report, and you will get a copy of these slides, so you do not have to write this down or go look it up, the paragraph. It must include the chairperson of the church council, the entire committee on nominations and leadership development, the entire committee on your PPR and its chair, the chairperson and additional members of the committee on finance, a financial secretary if they're not a church paid employee. So if you have a lay volunteer writing all your checks, and the trustees, and also the lay members of annual conference. The things in blue, and a recording secretary. Many churches add additional ministry leaders, and that is perfectly fine. Some churches are proud of their evangelism committee or whatever other committee it is. Those blue highlights positions are reported elsewhere in the charge conference reports, but it's always good to include them. It's just easier that way. And then the uploading for these is exactly the same as uploading the other PDF reports. So that's the quick and easy version of how you upload your reports, get them in your reports and upload them. And again, include your file name and in your church name in the file name, and don't use that dreaded apostrophe. Please do not send us paper copies of the reports. We are trying to go all digital. There are little question mark icons at the top of each page that will give you some additional help. And then always, if you run into any problems or it's acting weird or something, I've probably already made that same mistake. So please call me and we will figure something out. I had a pastor call me even 2 days ago, and she actually found a true glitch in the system, and I had to go to the developers. But we can do that. We can get things fixed pretty quickly. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. The second part of your charge conference is filling out your leadership reports. Now we go back to where you first logged in. You want to click on local church leadership, and that will take you to something that looks kind of like this. You will probably have a whole bunch of names already filled in. But for example, I just didn't do that. Positions with an asterisk, and these are the asterisks right here, are required. To add or to replace a leader because you have new leadership, click the plus icon. And just follow the prompts, and it will autofill with a start date of 1/1/25.
Chris, I noticed,
Yes.
I've noticed last year and then this year, as I've been in the system, when I've clicked on that, it pulls up names of all church members.
Yes.
But some are no longer with the church, some are deceased. How do we get that list updated?
If they're truly deceased, let me know.
Mhm.
And I can take care of that. And I do need an approximate date, but best guess is completely fine. And a lot of people, especially in this lower tier of lists, you see there are tons of potential positions. There will be a lot of people that were never stop dating. So I'm going to show you how to stop date somebody in leadership, but if they're actually deceased, just please let me know.
Okay.
And some of that will be in charge conference if they've been recently deceased. So if you click on any of these little triangles, you'll get to see the contact information. If you want to edit a leadership position, say give it a different start date or add contact information, go ahead and click the pencil when it's highlighted. And I'm sorry for my crossed arrows. I couldn't figure out how to design this one better. At the bottom of the leadership screen, there is a place for you to mention that, especially if you have low turnover in your leadership, that this leadership has been reviewed. So after you make sure all your changes and everything else, go ahead and click that box and click save. And that's going to help me maintain the database for Harpeth River. Couple things to note about the leadership. You cannot delete somebody in the leadership screen. If you accidentally added somebody to the to leadership, say you just clicked on the wrong person, contact me and I can take care of it on the back end. Something that to remember is your PPR chair, your lay delegate, and your alternate lay delegate to annual conference all must have an email address to fulfill their responsibilities. It's modern world. They are now, the conference is now communicating with them and sending them access codes, voting codes, and everything by email. So those 3 positions must have an email address to fulfill the responsibilities. Marie mentioned this, but go ahead and edit a leadership to put an end date for anybody who's moved on, who's moved away, and then you'll see put an end date on them so they're not just still hanging out on the leadership board. And this one I will try to help, the last one I'll try to help keep track of, but single point charges do need to put in their PPR chair for the charge and the church. It's just kind of a weird twist in the system. I do try to put them in if I notice the charge one is missing. So say Kristen at Forest Hills puts in Jane Doe and forgets to put her in the charge as well, then I get questions about, do they have a charge? Yes, they have a charge. So just, yeah, it's easier if you just do it when you know it, recognize it. Due date for all these, 2 weeks before your charge conference. I'm going to try to send out reminders, but BJ and I really do review them before your charge conference, before he gets there for your charge conference. So we do need a little bit of time for both of us to review them. At charge conference, we will bring a paper copy of the minutes, a hard copy, and there's going to be an attendance sheet, so you'll be able to sign all of that. And the agenda that BJ is about to share with you is on our webpage. This is a copy of our webpage, harpethriverdistrict.org, and there's a 2024 charge conference button, or you can go straight to the URL. You'll have this in the slide deck and the recording. Oops, keep forgetting, can't do that. You'll be in the right place if this is what you see. And of course, contact info, as I said, please don't hesitate to contact me, call me. If there's any sort of glitch, if you can't get on or whatever it is. As I said, I've made most of the mistakes already. I can help you through it. All of mine.
When I'm completing my deacon's report, last year, for some reason, it was too large to upload, and I had to send it to the conference office. Should I send it to you to upload it?
Yeah, go ahead and send it to me. I've got tools to decrease that. Now,
Okay.
your deacon's report is one of the direct entry now. So
Yeah. That is right. So I don't have to upload.
This is true.
That's true. Yay.
I do recommend you pull
How much did you write,
everything,
Marie?
it out.
Been busy.
I do recommend typing your answers out on a separate document, like a Word or whatever, in paragraphs, and then just cut and paste into the forms. You don't have to, but I
Okay.
think it's probably easier.
Okay, thank you.
So what questions do you have of Chris with with that information there? Let's say, Mary Beth, you're the one that's brand new. So
I don't have any questions yet.
Well, you'll have these slides and the video of this whole thing to review if needed, because that's what I want to do is create a set of slides that you can actually flip through and pick and see, as opposed to fancy ones that for the screen.
all right, we'll go ahead and share the agenda, and then we'll kind of walk through that.
They're just going to have a background. Oh well.
All right, so we're going to follow one of the things that the cabinet's been doing for several years is this SLI model, loving, learning, leading. So that we'll kind of follow that. I'll do a welcome and do a small devotion. I'm gonna be talking about dreaming God's dreams, and start talking about getting people excited about thinking outside the box, thinking ahead into what God's calling them to do, and in all of our context. And so I'll be talking about that a little bit. And then really the creative part of the meeting is I'm going to introduce something that the cabinet's been playing around with. We've been trained on something called the 3 practice circles. And it's a really, really interesting model that allows deep conversation in a controlled environment. And so I'm going to do some to share about the 3 practice circles so that all the churches get to hear what's going on with that, and then do a prompt. And the leading question that I want to ask is, what is God's dream for this congregation? And allow people to share their dreams and hopes and about where God is leading their congregation and congregations, if it's a charge. But and then I'm going to follow up with the next question: what's the one faithful step that we can begin to do to realize that dream? And so I really want to get people thinking about the future and what God's calling us to do in these congregations across our district. So I really want to get us thinking ahead and into the future, and then I want to follow that up with a lot of creative work next year for us to do. So that'll take probably 30 minutes of the meeting, and I think that'll be a good, healthy use of time for us to begin to dive in and hear our lay people and folks share about what God's calling them to do and these congregations to do. And so we'll kind of listen. It'll be important for me, I think, especially being a new district superintendent, to hear some of those dreams and what God's stirring up out in the district. And then I may be able to match churches together saying, hey, y'all have similar dreams here. Let's allow you to work together and think through some steps on how to make that, come into being in our district. So I really want to spend some time doing that. And then, of course, we'll get to the business. And, the business is not the most important thing, but it is something that we have to do. I think the work that I just set up is the most important part of what we want to do together. But as a part of Charge Conference, there are a couple of things that we have to do. We have to elect officers. There's a membership report. If you have an audit of your church membership and you want to go through that and remove people, we can do that as a membership report. The lay leadership report will be given. We'll elect those officers. We'll elect the lay delegates for annual conference. And then if you have at-large delegates or people who would like to serve as at-large delegates, we would like to know that and have a record of them so that we can ask them later on next year when we get the list of how many we need. We'll also, of course, approve pastors' compensation. And so this is always the tricky part is that the health insurance and pension amounts for 2025 will not happen until after Charge Conferences for most of you. And so we'll have to go back and make some corrections to that, but you can make sure everything else is in place. Line D, which is the compensation number down there at the bottom, that won't change, but your benefits could change the other columns. But the bottom line won't change unless we hold another church conference. Also, just to know, if you have lay servant that needs to be renewed, their certification, we'll do that. If you have certified candidates for ministry or people who are wanting to be certified and all that, then we'll vote on those folks and continue them. And then also, this is the place I need to add one more item. I just thought about it tonight as we're going through it, and then just have you all share, and that's the place where I'll have the pastor share, pastor report, anything they would like to share, and then just kind of celebrate what we've done in ministry the past year for a few minutes, and give folks a chance to do that. We'll also, then I'll probably hit highlights of things that I've already reviewed. Like if I think there's interesting things or things that might be troubling a little bit with finance or trustees, or as I look over safe sanctuary policies or insurance, those kind of things that might challenge folks to rethink through some of those issues, or ask them to tell me more about them as I'm learning. So that's the part that I will definitely read ahead on so that I can follow up with you all. One of the things that I did in the conference office last year was insurance for the whole conference. And so I got to learn way more than I wanted to learn about insurance, but I know how important it is. And so we can, we want to make sure we're keeping up insurance on our buildings, because it can be really, really important in the event of a tornado or some kind of disaster. So we'll look at that. Safe sanctuary policies are another thing that if you haven't reviewed them in several years, you need to be reviewing them. That's really important. And so, those kinds of things we'll talk about. And then if there's anything else that you have, if there's a building project going on that you need me to know about, if there's, you're thinking about selling a piece of property that the church owns, those kind of things, you can let me know and we can talk about that. So that's kind of the agenda, and then we'll go forth to go do our ministry. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? So we'll have a learning piece. I'll teach about 3 practice circles a little bit. We'll model that so that people get a little bit of a picture of what that looks like, and then they might think of creative ways to use that in the life of the congregation. So want to try to help you learn some new tools as well. What questions do you have?
The bishop's last name on there needs to be revised.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I will. Now that I have revisions.
Yeah. Who is Grimes?
This is what happens when you create something so far ahead of when he starts.
Yeah. I think there is a Bishop Grimes, but
Yeah.
yeah.
We should probably get that right.
Yeah.
We'll get this right. I have been flipping back between Bishop McAlilly and Bishop Graves so many times.
Yeah.
Anything else you spot on there? Good catch, Marie. Keep us out of trouble.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Any questions about any of that? Anything else that you are curious about for church conferences? Is that helpful?
That's helpful. I have a question once you're finished, just to ask you, and I'll ask Sylvia to stay on if you can,
Okay.
if you have a moment.
Sure.
Just a quick question about the compensation report.
Okay. Mary Beth, I'm picking on you, but you're our brand new person and just entering the system. So, you still don't have any questions?
No. Chris used to work with me at our home church, in
Yeah.
my home church, and so I feel like she's educated me for lots of years on how to get
Okay.
ready for church conference.
Well, I kind of felt the same way. I was in a meeting with Pat Prudenthal yesterday, and she explained what we were supposed to how to lead the church conference, and I realized, oh, I've led church conferences for 3 different DSs already. So I realized, oh, this is not new work for me, actually. But
Yeah.
all right, well, thank you all very much for listening, and if you have questions, we're here to help. So just let us know, and we'll walk you through.